Committee, I would like to welcome the panelists and the attendees. My name is Deborah Tavares, and I'm on the committee, and I'm really excited to be a part of this webinar because we're going to hear from 7 amazing young entrepreneurs. Before I introduce our moderator, I just want to tell everybody just a couple of things. One is everybody's going to be muted. But if you have questions, please place them in the chat room. And then 2, this webinar will be recorded so that if your teachers or anybody that would like to have a copy of this, we will definitely give you a copy. Where do I begin? This has been an outstanding week for global entrepreneurship. We've had networking, we've had watch parties, we've heard tips from entrepreneurs. We're getting ready to have the business of TikTok and YouTube this evening, and then we have a virtual pitch competition tomorrow. I have learned so much, but I am overly excited about hearing these young people and their journey. Sit back. You're going to hear some amazing things. You're going to learn a lot. I promise you, you're going to be inspired. I have the honor of introducing our dynamic, when I say dynamic moderator. Ms. Temple Lester is a gifted, award-winning 13-year-old creator of STEM Girl Swag and the inventor of STEM Swag Box. She's an entrepreneur, she's a public speaker, and she's a STEM advocate. In fact, in the 3rd grade, she launched www.justtemple.com, a website dedicated to science, technology, engineering, STEM. Temple provides free workshops, seminars, motivational talks to youth involved in STEM. Through her advocacy, she has exposed over 50,000 people to STEM. She has received many awards. She's been featured in the Atlanta In-Town paper. She has been the Youth Entrepreneur of the Year in 2019. She was a Georgia Science Teachers Association STEM Talk winner. She has been on the radio, television, in fact, and also she's been featured in the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture 2020 digital showcase for her award-winning documentary about Shirley Chisholm. It's my honor to introduce to you Ms. Temple Lester.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I am so excited to be talking to everybody today, to be moderating this incredible panel. I've done my research on you guys. I've read your bios, and you guys are just so incredible, and it's such an honor to talk to you. Happy Global Entrepreneur Week, everybody. I'm an entrepreneur, and you all are entrepreneurs, so I know how it feels. I know that hustle that you have to do. And then also, it's a lot since all of your youth, you have school and you do entrepreneurship too. So all of that is just so incredible. But let's go ahead and get into introducing this inspiring panel. All right, so first up is Mosiah Mo Bridges. Mosiah is the 18-year-old creative director and founder of Mo's Bows Handmade Bow Ties, a Memphis-based and family-run business. His strong fashion sense led him to start his own company at the age of 9. With the help of his mother and grandmother, he began to sell his own bow ties on his website and in Memphis retail stores. Mosiah has been featured on The Steve Harvey Show, The Today Show, the Oprah Magazine, Good Morning America, 2020, CBS This Morning, the Disney Channel, and Shark Tank, which he'll be on this Friday. He served as the fashion correspondent for the 2015 NBA draft, and by 2017, the National Basketball Association sealed a partnership with him to make custom neckties and bow ties for all 30 NBA teams. Give it up for Mosiah.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me for Global Entrepreneur Week. I'm so excited to be here.
Next up, we have Haley Thomas. Haley is a 19-year-old an international speaker, wellness and compassion activist, vegan food and lifestyle content. She was the youngest to graduate from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition as a certified integrative nutrition health coach. Haley is the founder of the nonprofit HAPPY, which means healthy, active, positive, purposeful youth. She founded her nonprofit at the age of 12. Haley has personally engaged with over 80,000 people around the world since 2010 and has spoken at the following events: SXXW, We Day UN at the Barclays Center, and GITX Future Stars in Dubai. She has been featured by BuzzFeed, MTV, CNN, The Today Show, O Magazine, and Teen Vogue.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
Thank you, Haley. James Jones. James started working in the kitchen at 7th grade, being a line cook for a family's friend restaurant. When he was in high school, his father took over a dying restaurant, BGR Grill, located in East Point, Georgia. James learned the restaurant business from his father. He became the manager at the age of 18 and then the co-owner at the age of 21. The restaurant was featured as Yelp's top-rated restaurant in East Point and on Burgers with Buck. James just graduated with honors from Morehouse College with a degree in marketing and sales.
How you guys doing? Happy to be here.
Thank you, James. So excited to talk to all of our panelists today. Samaya Wesu. Samaya is a brand new company. She opened her business January of this year. Her company is called Shop for Maya. Her mission is to be one-stop shop, offering her clients product, and she is beginning steps and stages developing services.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for having me. I'm also excited to be here.
Next up, we have Abubakar Berry. Abubakar is an 18-year-old student at Georgia Tech. He is a business major with a concentration in marketing. He was born in Guinea, West Africa, and in 2007, his family moved to the United States. They settled in New York in 2012, and in 2012, they moved to Atlanta, Georgia. When Abubakar was 14 and in his first year in high school, he wanted to work, yet no one would hire him because he was so young. He decided that he would hire himself. He did a marketing analysis in the school to see what would sell in the school. He decided to meet their needs.
Hey, thank you very much, everybody, for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Next up, we have Corey Neves. I am not sure if I'm saying that right. Please correct me on your last name if I did say it wrong.
Yeah, it's Nieves. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Corey Nieves. Corey Nieves, also known as Mr. Corey, is an entrepreneur who serves as the Chief Operating Officer for Mr. Corey's Cookies, LLC. The company sells all-natural gourmet cookies made with high-quality ingredients. Corey lives with his mother, who is also known as Cookie Mom. Together, they created Mr. Corey's Cookies. When Corey was 6 years old, he wanted to sell hot cocoa to raise money to buy his mom a car to travel back and forth from school. That led him to selling lemonade and chocolate chip cookies. The cookies were a hit. He makes chocolate chip, double dark, oatmeal raisin, and sugar with more flavors to come. CNBC's The Prophet, which is the brainchild of billionaire investor Marcus Lemonis, serves as a mentor for Corey and his mom. Ellen DeGeneres was so impressed with Corey that she gave him a new car with his logo on it. With the CEO look, dress shirt, bow tie, and trousers, he has been in ads for Target, Bloomingdale's, Citibank, J.Crew, Macy's, and Mercedes-Benz, just to name a few. He plans to attend Princeton University to study business law.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Really amazing.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our questions, guys. We have some questions for our panelists on entrepreneurships, and we will start off with our opening question. You guys have 1 minute to answer each. What is your most memorable experience as an entrepreneur? And we will start off with, I think we should start off with Haley.
Thank you. I think that entrepreneurship is such a diverse experience. You can experience so many different things and it can teach you a lot. So it's very hard for me to pin down really one moment that has been the most special. But I think truly the beginning of my journey is actually something that I hold near and dear to my heart just because of the excitement and the creativity that is coming up when you're coming up with an idea, and then putting that into action and seeing it actually come to life is so special. So when I was 12 and started my nonprofit, I remember we had like a ribbon cutting event, and that was amazing for me just because it really marked this beginning of a journey. But throughout my entire career, I would say some of my most memorable experiences have been introducing First Lady Michelle Obama at Kids State Dinner, getting to travel the world in general. That's been an amazing experience. And overall, really, the interactions that I get to have with the young people we work with through our programming, all of that leaves a huge print on me and inspires me to continue doing my work. So it's hard to really pin it down, but those are a few.
All right, definitely. Next up, Corey.
I'm on mute, sorry. I would say my most, best experience was going on Ellen Jenner's show because she was pretty amazing. She got my mom the car, the Cookie Mobile, also, a grant for college. So that was my best experience I had.
Mosiah, next. Let's see.
I would say it was a mixture. I love Haley's response. I can relate to that a lot because when she opened for Michelle Obama, that really took me back to when I met President Obama, and I got to actually gift him a Barack Obama blue bow tie, which was pretty exciting. So I think that was my most memorable moment. But also, like she said before, growing up in your company and those first few moments, like for me specifically, when my grandmother was teaching me how to sew the bow tie, it was very memorable and very exciting. And I remember the rush that I was getting to get my product out there and to start selling it. So that's definitely one of my most memorable experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And it is also so incredible to meet a former lady and former first lady and former president, which I think is so incredible for both of you. Next up, Abubakar, let's see what your most memorable experience is.
Yeah, sure. So similar to what Haley and Mosiah said, in terms of most memorable experience as an entrepreneur, you will have a lot of experiences. But if I was to choose, I would say that my most memorable experience as an entrepreneur is when I heard not one, not two, not three, but a majority of the African youth in my community telling me that they aspire to become like me. And after hearing this, it kind of like solidified all of my hard work and perseverance, because that was like my ultimate goal in the very beginning. My ultimate goal was to make my family proud and be a positive incorporation to my community and to be like a role model for these youth. That was just very memorable to me.
You, and it's also so incredible to just do that one goal that you really started your company for and do that one thing that really keeps you going. Next up, Samaya.
Okay, so my most memorable experience as an entrepreneur had to be my actual launch date. I launched my business officially January 1st of this year, and it was a very humbling experience. I procrastinated for a long time. I wanted everything to be perfect, but as an entrepreneur, you got to learn that everything isn't relatively perfect. You have to test things, you have to see how this works. And I feel like my launch date was actually a huge step for me, considering I waited for so long. So it was very
Definitely. James, last up. Yeah.
I can honestly say my most memorable experience when working in the restaurant industry was when we had our first major catering order. We ended up doing 200 burgers for the cast of The Walking Dead. So we got to see some of the cast members. A lot of the people there really liked our food. It definitely took a lot to cook, but just showing that people really enjoy our cooking to the point that they want to order in mass produce, it shows that what we're doing is actually a good product and that it's moving forward in the right direction.
That's incredible. I'm going to have to tell my cousin who loves watching The Walking Dead that I've met someone who's catered to them before. But definitely all of your stories are so great, and it really goes into what being an entrepreneur is, from meeting all these different people and introducing yourself to what Abubakar said, which I think I can relate to most as being an entrepreneur, is going back in my community and donating my product to schools in my community who don't have, who may not have enough science in their homes. So definitely I relate to doing it for the goal of what I started to encourage minorities and girls in STEM, and then also meeting different people and doing stuff that you maybe thought you couldn't do, and then you did it. So all of that definitely goes into being an entrepreneur, and all of your stories and what really is your best experience is what it's all about. So next up, we're going to go into all of our 2-minute questions each. So the first question is, looking back, what is one thing that you wish you understood about entrepreneurship before you got in it? We're going to go with Mosiah first.
One thing that I wish I understood about entrepreneurship before I went in it is that failing is definitely okay. When you fail, that, getting back up. You have to, when you fall, you obviously have to get back up and try again and go even harder the next time. And some people think that failing is just the worst thing ever, but in order to fail, you have to succeed, and in order to fail, you have to go even farther. So that's pretty much what I wish I knew before starting my company.
Yeah, and that also goes along with what Samaya said earlier about knowing about the failure and all of that different stuff. So let's go to Haley next.
Sure. I think for this question, I always like to say that I actually wish I didn't know anything. I think that really going through the challenges that I needed to and coming to certain realizations during the process was really essential to me, coming to understand my business more, to understanding the purpose behind what I was doing, and really to learn and grow as an individual as well. And so if I gave myself advice, from the future, I don't know if I would necessarily grow in the way that has been so authentic for me. And so in a lot of ways, I think it's really beautiful when we kind of embrace the journey with all of the unknowns and learn through those failures, those challenges. And yeah, that's been actually a really key thing for me, is just accepting the journey and what comes with it. So yeah, that would be my advice to myself, is to do that. But especially in the nonprofit space, I think one thing that was a challenge for me was, understanding the community that I was serving and going into it. Initially, I'd started my nonprofit in Tucson, Arizona. So demographics were a lot different than here in New York. And our focus, was on healthy eating and things like that, but really getting to know the areas that we're going into, understanding accessibility and ensuring that our programs were approachable and fun. Took a lot of testing, a lot of failing, and just really kind of falling into it fully. So I think that honestly is the best advice, is just to embrace the process as it comes.
Of course, always embrace it, because you have failure, disappointments, and that's what I hear a lot of right now. But next up, let's go to James.
One thing I wish I would have known when I first started becoming an entrepreneur is the sacrifices it takes to become an entrepreneur. A lot of people think, once you become an entrepreneur, you make your money and then you go home at the end of the day. No. Like recently, you said, before I graduated from Morehouse, it took me 6 years instead of 4, because I had to miss finals, I had to miss class attendance, all because an employee didn't show up for work, or we had a catering order, or just something else to do. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to really, really look at the sacrifices that you're willing to make. And if you're not willing to make those sacrifices, then maybe an entrepreneurship would probably be a little bit too hard.
Yeah, sacrifices is one thing that we talk about, and you always have to be prepared for what comes when you want to start a business, because you never know what the outcome is going to be, and you never know what you are going to face. So you just have to be prepared for those changes. Abubakar, what do you have to say about this question?
Yeah, so similar to what the previous speaker says, looking back, one thing that I wish I understood about entrepreneurship is definitely, a delegation legalities for me, right? You see, I understood that starting off, I wouldn't make millions, nor would I become the next famous individual. However, what I didn't understand was how to protect my brand for the long term. I was kind of like very excited about, you know, releasing this idea to the public that you know, I didn't really think about protecting my brand for the long run. So when I initially launched, I gained like a lot of traction in my high school, and I started seeing speculation that individuals I wanted to like take similar parts to my brand. So you know, even though it didn't happen directly, I ended up filing and getting approved for a trademark. But I wish I definitely knew that beforehand.
And a lot of what I'm hearing, again, just going off what everybody said, is knowing kind of what will happen in the foreseeable future, which is one thing that a lot of us really can't predict. So then again, going back to what James said with the willing, like, what are you willing to risk for your own business? What are you willing to risk for your future? And that's just all a part of what it takes to become an entrepreneur. Corey, last up for this question.
Yeah, sure.
Corey, we can't hear you. Again, the
Hello?
question is, yeah, hi, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, what was the question again?
Question is, what would you want to know before you started your business or before you became an entrepreneur?
Well, I didn't want to change anything because I believe everything happens for a reason. All the mistakes and everything I made happened, so I could learn from it. So I wouldn't really change anything.
And that goes along with what Haley, I see Haley and Corey kind of have the same thought on this question, but I fully agree with what everybody has said. Willing to sacrifice, that's what you have to really know deep down inside, that, hey, this is what I'm going to do to get where I want to go, and I have to leave some things behind because of this. And then, of course, everything does happen for a reason. I definitely agree with Corey on that. So where we are today, we're all here right now talking to each other, talking to everybody that's here because of what we've done in our past. So that just all goes along with what we kind of had to do before. But our next question is, what systems have you set up in your business to help it grow? And let's start with Mosiah again.
Okay, so some of the systems specifically that I've set up in my company to help it grow, me and my mom, we've been in business together for almost like 10 years now. And growing up with, I feel like any parent in a company is pretty difficult, or it's pretty tough, especially when you're a younger kid. But I feel like some of the principles to set up to really encourage a healthy relationship are therapy, and really communication is key. I've found out. I mean, she can't know how I feel, or she can't know how, you know, I'm feeling really deep inside if I don't tell her, and if I don't really express that. And me growing up, being very stubborn and a Scorpio, I was very passive aggressive. So it's kind of hard to get over that. And that's why I said therapy really helps with that. But communication is definitely key when planning a company, even being involved in the company. That's one of the systems that's really helped me establish growth a lot.
Definitely. Definitely. I agree with everything you said. My mom is my manager, handles everything, talks to business, and she's a Gemini. I'm a Pisces. So if you really know your astrology, that does not really work well together. So we butt heads sometimes, but it's still amazing to work with her. And I really don't want to work with anyone else for a while. But I definitely agree. Communication is key no matter what you're doing. If it's entrepreneurship, if it's a friendship, communication is key. But let's go with Corey this time.
Sorry, I'm having some internet issues. What was the question again? It keep breaking up. That's why.
So the question is, what are some of the systems you have set up in your business to help it grow?
Well, marketing is another basically thing we have. A lot of ads, social media, also operations, and hiring staff too.
Yep, of course, marketing is the biggest thing with entrepreneurship right now. Haley.
Yes, I totally agree with everyone. You know, it's so important, especially with communication, to ensure that we're very strong in our position. And I also have my mom as my co-founder. So in that way, you know, I think whoever is in our space, whether that's family members or employees, volunteers, interns, it's super important to have that clear line of communication, but also a clear line of communication with ourselves. I think that in entrepreneurship, we can very easily lose track of our needs as individuals. So whether we're, you know, being overworked or not spending enough time to take care of ourselves, that is a challenge that I definitely have come across throughout my journey. And so I think that really setting up systems for also taking care of yourself is vital to the growth of your business as well, because when we do take care of ourselves, we cultivate that energy and that inspiration and just sense of well-being that fuels our companies. And so I always like to think of it as like, I can't fuel anything that I'm doing if I'm on E as well. And so really making sure that in correspondence to all of the systems I have in place for my company, whether that's communication, organization, finding ways to measure impact, ensuring that, you know, partnerships are a key point. It's also my partnership with myself and how I take care of myself as a person and then as a CEO, of course. So that's a big thing for sure, self-care.
Definitely, us in our own companies, we are the heart and the brains of our company. So it's always, we have to keep that oxygen flowing to us and that water flowing to us in our companies. So definitely what Haley said. Samaya, what do you think about this question?
Okay, so for me, I would definitely have to go with social media. Social media has played like a huge role in helping the growth of my business. Actually, 96% of all my traffic from my website comes directly from my social media and building my brand on social media. So that would definitely be my answer.
Definitely. Social media is a big part of my brand as well. That's how I've got a lot of the opportunities to talk to people across the world about what I do right now. James, what do you think about this question?
One system that I definitely want to talk about when it comes to it is definitely having trust. One thing that we all hit on is that our parents were there to help us out. When you don't, as an entrepreneur, you don't have to do it all on your own. As an entrepreneur, you don't have to do it all on your own. You do have people that can support you. For example, I do the day-to-day operations inside the store, and my dad, he runs the outside operations. So this frees me up so that way I can have these meetings with these different people. Like I was able to meet with the execs from Tyler Perry Studios because my dad was in the background. He had my corner. So it's just like going back and forth. You have to understand that you're not in this by yourself. You have to find a corner that can definitely have your back in any situation that comes up.
I fully agree. I know one of the issues that I had when I was first starting my company is being able to talk to my peers about it, because I thought about what they would feel towards me, or would they feel jealousy, or would they not want to be my friend because I think I'm better than them, when I'm really just doing something to help my community. Abubakar, your final answer to this question.
Yeah, I actually agree with all the panelists, and I feel like Haley summed it up perfectly. But I actually have a few systems set up to help my business grow. Like, for example, I have a fairly good marketing system, such as word to mouth, social media marketing, as well as social media advertisements in place to scale my business. Additionally, recently I have also entered into a new market, which will broaden my target audience and potentially bring in more customers. And last but not least, I have also launched a community service leg to my brand dedicated to giving back to my community. And I think this is a great idea because it can bring in more exposure in my brand, as well as help build the brand awareness.
Yeah, real quick, Mosiah has to go. He is over in California and has some work. Do you have anything to say before you leave? Thank you so much for joining us.
I just want to thank everyone for having me, and I want to tell any kid out there that wants to start a business, I want to give you guys my 4 goals of business, my acronym that I came up with. B is to believe in yourself. O is the opportunity to give back. W is to work hard, and S is support. And I want all you guys to dream big and reach for the stars. Thank thank you to all the lovely panelists. I'm glad to see Haley again. Temple, you're such an amazing host. Abari, and James and Maya, thank you guys. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much. And make sure you guys go check him out. He's going to be on Shark Tank tomorrow. Go follow his Instagram, all his social medias. Go order some bows. Just everybody go check him out. Thank you so much.
See you guys later. Bye.
So that was so much fun to have him here, but it's time to move on to our next question, which is, how did the pandemic affect your business, and are you doing anything differently? I know this question, pandemic has done a lot for me, quarantine has, because social media has been a more outlet of places. And I bet you all have that same thing too, when people have been contacting you to do different things. And that's how I've got my way to do so many different panels I've done over this course of 8 months. So Samaya, let's go to you. Let's hear about your story first.
Okay, as far as the pandemic, I would say as far as my business go, it did have a positive impact, considering I didn't have to go to school, so I was able to focus more and actually sit down, which I think is important, to actually sit down and brainstorm and go through all the mistakes I made and understand what I need to do in order to improve my business. So I did have a lot of time to sit down and think and, you know, just make those changes that are necessary. Also, since I do have an online website, of course, I was able to devote more of my time to I make all my products myself. So I was able to produce products faster. I was able to ship them out because the post office is never closed. So as far as that goes, that's pretty much a positive impact.
I have to agree with you on everything about that. I make my own products at home too. My dining room is filled with everything used to make my boxes and my shirts. But I definitely agree that social media and having more time to do all this different stuff, I've had opportunities to talk to bigger audiences and more adults who do order their boxes for their kids. And then also parents were looking for science for kids to do during quarantine because we weren't in school. So they ordered my boxes. But Abubakar, how has the pandemic affected your business?
I just have to say that Samaya had a very beautiful response, and I actually relate to her as well. Believe it or not, the pandemic actually had a positive effect on my business as well. Prior to 2020, you know, I always convinced myself that I am not a creative person, and I convinced myself that I didn't have such talents. I always relied on people to do certain things for me that I never tried doing myself. However, this year when COVID hit, of course, people were not readily accessible for me. So instead, I sat down one day and asked myself, what could I do on my own? And to my surprise, I redesigned my original brand logo entirely by myself. Not only that, I launched my sports brand this year that I'm wearing here, also this year during COVID, as well as my community service leg that I said earlier, also by myself. And most importantly, I'm getting ready to finally launch my online website this year. You know, can you believe it took me 4 years?
Well, good job. I'll be excited to check out your website when it drops. Haley, how has the pandemic affected your business?
I think that was such an excellent point, especially regarding creativity and the extra time that we've been able to have. I think that it's always kind of weird to see so much growth come out of such a hard time and so many opportunities to really understand our businesses even more and expand on it through this time. But that's exactly what it's provided for me as my own brand and my nonprofit has really created space for creative thinking and sinking into solutions and ways to kind of innovate and change formatting. So for our nonprofit, all of our programs were hosted in person. So this forced us to look into virtual ways of reaching out. So we've done virtual summer camps and, you know, school tours on Zoom and things like that. And it's been so fun exploring the virtual landscape, but also just thinking outside of the box. I think that getting these opportunities to kind of refresh our thinking and look at our businesses from a perspective of like anything is possible at this point. We can really think beyond the traditional ideas of how our businesses should operate. And so this pandemic definitely created that opportunity, but also highlighted the real importance of creating community through business as well. I think that because of the virtual space that we're in now, it's hard to really feel that connection. So finding ways to really build community, create safe spaces, and do that through your product or service or nonprofit, whatever it is. I think that sense of community during this time is so important. So all of those things really popped up for me, and I'm ultimately very grateful for it.
I have to agree with what everybody has said right now so far. Haley saying everything, like having a more wide audience and figuring out how to do different things, because I go to schools to speak. So throughout quarantine, I've had the opportunity to speak to people outside of my state of Georgia and outside my city of Atlanta, to where one of my favorite things I've done is spoke to a class in San Francisco, I think. And it was just such an honor to talk to them. But again, it was hard to kind of wake them up because it was right after lunch too. But James, how has the pandemic affected your business?
So as everybody knows, restaurants have definitely taken a hit during the pandemic. With us, we had to shut down our in-store dining. We had to expand our patio a little bit. All of our cashiers, they are required to wear masks when they interact with people. And we just basically created an environment where people can feel safe going out to eat. Because as you know, a lot of times when people are being affected by the virus, they talk about being in large groups. So we literally had to alter our restaurant and our communication with each other on not only keeping it clean, but also maintaining that food quality and getting people out as fast as we can. Since we no longer have in-store dining, we have to make sure that a lot of these people who are on their breaks or on their dinner, lunch, all this, they have to get out as soon as possible. So we just rapidly started gaining sales because of this new model that we implicated.
I've seen how hard the pandemic has hit restaurants. So definitely, I know it would be an issue for you as a restaurant. So sorry for that, but you're doing the best you can. And I know that you are just getting it out there. Who haven't I done? Corey, how has the pandemic affected your business?
Well, the pandemic basically affected us because we lost around 80% of our sales from our corporate clients, because most of our clients are corporate parties, events, gift baskets and everything for companies. So we had to mainly switch and focus to retail and our e-commerce site.
Okay, yeah. Again, with the food pieces of quarantine, it's been a lot for those owners and different people like you and James to handle. But we have a question from somebody watching, and the question is, how did you get your idea to start your business? I'm only going to ask a few people this question. Haley, how did you get the idea to start your business?
Sure. So for my business and work, it was inspired by something that happened within my family. And I think just as I tell this story, really be great to think about some things that happen in our families and in our lives that can really be catalysts and, the spark to ideas that can make a greater impact. But when I was 8, my dad was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And through his diagnosis, my family decided to try and reverse his condition without the use of medication, because it had some pretty terrible side effects like internal bleeding and death. And so we didn't want him to go down that route. And so we decided to go through the food method. And that's really when I started learning about health and wellness and how to also eat healthy foods in a way that was enjoyable and really creative. And through that process, my family eventually reversed my dad's condition completely, just through changing our lifestyle and eating habits. And so I was blown away by what I learned about the food system and about health and wellness, but also blown away by this huge gap I saw in nutrition education that was actually fun and accessible and was peer-led. I couldn't look to any of my other 10-year-old friends or anything like that and have a discussion about processed foods or reading food labels. And so I thought, hey, maybe I can be that kid to bring that information to my community. And so it really started there. And eventually I did a lot of like speaking at health conferences, talking about the power of food and young people being empowered through what's on their plates and fueling their potential through that. And eventually I realized that, you know, while all of the things that I've mentioned, you know, some of it has been fancy and really cool, the heart of my work is in the impact. And so realizing that, you know, throughout my journey, as it was kind of shifting towards more media and speaking, I wanted to really ground it in a nonprofit and provide that accessible education. And so that's really where Happy started. And we've been just expanding from there and really looking beyond just food, but also the other elements of wellness that impact us, like our mindsets, our relationships with ourselves and others, and education in the ways that we tap into our creativity and our communities. So yeah, it was really just from a common household experience that happens, you know, to people everywhere across this country. And illness happens in your family or to you. And so those moments can absolutely be sparks for greater change.
Incredible. Of course, and what I found really funny that I guess we can relate to each other in is you saying when you were 10 years old and not being able to talk to your friends about this. I started my company when I was 9, and I remember the first people I showed it to was my 3rd grade class, and they were just sitting there, wow, that's incredible. How did you get into this and how do you know all this? So that's pretty funny. But Abubakar, can you also answer this question? How did you start your company? It looks like he's having some connection issues. We're just going to move on to the next question then. Where does your passion come from, and how did you get, well, I said how did you get your idea, but where does your passion really, really come from? We're going to go with James. James, where does your passion really come from?
Well, for me personally, I'm definitely two things. I'm definitely a people pleaser, and I'm definitely a foodie. I love food. Like, no matter what it is, I'm willing to try it. It's ridiculous. But just the fact that I have people come to my restaurant, show me their love, show me that they're ready to try some of the ideas that I prepare for them really motivates me to actually keep going and keep growing. So, you know, every time, almost every day in the kitchen, I'm coming up with new ideas, new recipes, new dishes, something that just is different from what people usually get. And that's just one thing that entrepreneurs have, is that we have the ability to be creative, to do something different that hasn't been done before.
I can agree with you on the foodie part. I love food too, and I'm definitely going to have to come by your restaurant. You're in East Point, and I am in Decatur. So I definitely have to come over there and see. So another question is, what's the hardest obstacle you've had to overcome? And these are all live questions from people watching. So what is the hardest obstacle you ever had to overcome? Let's go with Corey.
The hardest obstacle I have to overcome, I guess it was basically letting people know that I'm not just a kid, and I could do more than what other people think. Because when you go into a business meeting and you have all other corporate people, they're gonna think that you're a kid and not take you serious. So you have to do like 2 things more than the other person.
I fully agree. I love to relate to all of your answers with each of these questions. I think all of us are somewhat the same with our companies. Of course, Corey, I am a young person too. I'm 13, so people look at me like, oh, what is she going to do? Because I do public speak most of what I do. So people are like, oh, can she really speak, and different things like that. Samaya, what is one of the hardest obstacles you've had to face?
I would have to say with my business, one of the hardest obstacles had to face was sale generation. When I first started my business, I actually didn't get a sale for months. Like when I first launched my website, it's like I just randomly took off one day and started generating many sales. But at first it was kind of hard for me to stay consistent, because you're wondering, okay, why am I not making any sales? And then when you first launch, especially considering I planned so long and actually had a launch date, you're like, okay, why am I not getting any sales? Like, it's literally just that simple. So I had to actually sit down, like I said, brainstorm, figure out what I could do to change this, and actually try to figure out the audience that I was getting to, and try to figure out and push products that they would be more interested in.
That is one of the hardest parts of being an entrepreneur. And I think that's where a lot of people stop their businesses. So it's really incredible that you continued on. That really shows that you have a passion for what you do and you have a passion for helping people out. Haley, what has been one of your biggest obstacles?
I think that one of the biggest obstacles has definitely been really leaning into, and I wouldn't say it's even an obstacle, it's just kind of a natural course we all kind of have to go through in terms of really finding and being very confident in our unique voice and our ideas and really being our biggest supporters and believers. I had a lot of instances when I was younger of people, obviously doubting what I was doing, thinking, I'm too young for this, or that I'm not, qualified enough to do what I'm doing. But what really developed the strength for me to move past those moments in which I was being challenged was for me to have an inner belief that transcended all of those comments. And so working on that aspect of really leaning into what you love, why, the intention behind it, all of that kind of builds up a defense to that, and also kind of creates a confidence that just radiates through you. So that was one thing, but also as you go on, sometimes you get comments that can make you feel bad for the ways that you're trying to innovate or show up, or just simply follow your idea or dreams. I would get a lot of comments from adults where they would say things like, "Oh, you're doing so much, like what have I done with my life?" Or, "Oh, when I was your age, I was like playing with dirt." And that to me makes me feel so bad about just who I am, just because I don't want to show up and make someone feel bad about themselves. But I had to realize that a lot of those things were not really about me, and that I didn't need to take them to heart, but instead share my story, my work authentically, and whoever really connects with that, and whoever doesn't, oh well. But I think, really feeling grounded in what we're doing and where we're coming from is so important to really move through that obstacle of, feeling less confident or feeling like we need to shrink ourselves, our work, whatever it may be. So that's been one thing.
Yeah, definitely. Again, what you said with really feeling that other people's, what they were putting on you was really your fault when it really wasn't. It's a lot of things that people face, especially nowadays when we're in the era of social media and the era of technology. But we have a few more questions and then we're going to wrap up. So our second to last question is, what are 3 lessons that you have learned? And we are going to go with Abubakar. You're muted.
All right, can you all hear me now? I was having some computer issues.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so some lessons that I learned in the business is actually, first of all, business is not for everybody. Like mentioned earlier, there are some sacrifices that has to be taken. There's a lot of willpower that has to be possessed, and so on and so forth. Also, there will be some stressful moments. So so going back to my previous points, if you're not able to handle that, I don't think personally that business is for you. And last but not least, don't rush into starting a company, because you have to clearly understand the reasoning and make sure that you secure your business early. So those are 3 lessons that I've learned.
Yeah, I fully agree with every one of them. James, what are 3 to 5 lessons that you have learned?
3 lessons for me. Definitely, just because you're young doesn't mean that you can't accomplish anything that you want. At all times, I'm the youngest person in the kitchen. You're dealing with people who have 3+ culinary degrees, and I'm just happy to be in the kitchen. You have to kind of make yourself have a presence. So if you're going to do it, go 100%. Another lesson that I've learned is, as an entrepreneur, especially in business, you're going to have to take judgment. Everybody's not going to like your product, and it's okay for that. You're in the market to improve what you have and also learn from the mistakes that you made in the past. So just going back to what I think Mosiah said, if you failed before, just keep going, because not every time something's different that somebody may not like, that doesn't mean that you have to stop. I guess one more lesson for me will always be that definitely you are going to lose some sleep. As an entrepreneur, you are definitely going to lose some sleep. Back when I was in school, I was waking up at 7 in the morning, opening up the restaurant, going to class, coming back, and then leaving work at 11 at night just to go home and do my schoolwork. So if you're going to become an entrepreneur, you have to understand that it's not just a cakewalk in the park. you actually got to pull a full effort into what you do to make it flourish.
For sure, all of that. School student right here, a lot, especially during the pandemic. For everybody that's in school, it is a lot to handle right now. Corey, what are 3 lessons that you have learned?
I have learned that the customer is always right. You also have to listen to your employees and always make sure you research your market base and who you're selling to, and, know the product you're selling, because you don't want to go into the business, not knowing anything.
Maya, what are 3 lessons that you have learned throughout your journey?
Okay, so first I would definitely say, and the most important to me is consistency is definitely key. Next, I would say innovation is necessary, definitely. Like I said, as I stress this to everybody, as an entrepreneur, you really just have to figure out, you can't really think, oh, I failed. You have to think, okay, I failed. What's next? Like, what can I do to fix this issue? And the last thing I would say was to figure out how to keep whatever audience you're catering to, figure out how you can keep their attention. Like, as an entrepreneur, we might get a lot of attention or traffic at one time, but how can you stay relevant? How can you keep your brand relevant? How can you keep people coming back? Like, to focus on that, basically.
Definitely, all of that. All of you are so right. Haley, what are your 3 lessons that you've learned?
I think top 3 have to be being willing to be uncomfortable is a really important thing. So whether that is, as James mentioned, losing sleep, losing friends, having personal fears or issues being triggered, like of public speaking or of judgment, or a multitude of different things, knowing that those things will come up, but also leaning into that discomfort, because I think that's where we can grow and learn the most is through those things that come up for us. So that, I would also say, really getting educated and understanding the field that you're going into. So, and that process doesn't have to sound as boring as it seems, but really like diving into it when you're passionate about it. Taking online courses, there are so many that are free and have helped me tremendously on my journey. Watching YouTube videos, reaching out to young people like ourselves. Like, I'll put my email in this chat and you guys can ask any questions moving forward, but reaching out to peers, reaching out to community members and family members, whoever, really, to find that connection and support. That is a huge piece. And then finally, I would say being flexible, understanding that, I mean, we've all kind of had to go through this lesson this year in terms of uncertainty and knowing that that kind of always exists. So leaning into the opportunity we have to be flexible, which always requires creativity. And I think those have really been big lessons that I've learned for sure.
All of your lessons are something that I think you should learn no matter what you're doing, even if it's like not entrepreneur, if you're just working a regular job. But I'm gonna go and tell like one of my major lessons, just one, is to surround yourself with positivity. I think that kind of ties up what everyone has said. Just surround yourself with the right environment and the people that support you always, and the people that you work well with, because I work with a graphic designer and I work with my mom, and we meet with people to figure out what we're going to do next. And you just want to find the people that are perfect for you, that will challenge you, but also notice your ideas and uplift your ideas no matter what. So positivity is a major thing. And we're going to end it with our last question, everybody. And after you say your last question, please drop your social media handles in the chat, everybody. I know I follow everybody that's speaking on this panel, but drop your social medias in the chat, say it out loud, all your handles. But our last question is, what advice would you give to people who want to start their own businesses or entrepreneurs already? And let's start with Corey.
Advice I have for entrepreneurs getting ready to start something new is basically, whatever you want to do, don't give up. Make sure, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be difficult. It's not easy. You want to just keep on going, keep your head up high, and keep smiling, and make sure the business never gets to you. So make sure, like, if you're down, don't always have a bad day. It happens in business, it shouldn't affect your personal life. You should never combine the two.
Definitely, everybody listen to that. Good information from Corey. Maya, what advice would you give entrepreneurs?
I would definitely say to not to give up. Like I've stressed basically this whole panel, consistency is key. Find the issues, find what the problem is, and work to change whatever you can fix.
Short and sweet. Yeah. James, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs ready to start their business?
One thing I would say is piece of advice is that you can do it. Like, don't think about it. Don't try to stress yourself out saying how I'm gonna do it, when I'm gonna do it, if I had the money to do it. If you really want to be an entrepreneur, just go for it. Because at the end of the day, nobody can stop you from being an entrepreneur but yourself. As an entrepreneur, we're 100% for 100% of the loss and profit that our business brings in. So if you're ready to put the work in, you're gonna always see the profit. And that is just definitely something I would give to somebody who's thinking about being an entrepreneur. I also like to tell this time that we're actually doing a social media challenge. I'm gonna drop it in our chat that if you come to the restaurant this Saturday and you take a picture, a selfie with a BGR logo in the background, whoever gets the most likes will win a dinner for two.
Sure, y'all go check out James and his restaurant and their giveaway, their shout outs. Haley, advice you would give to anybody?
Yes, I think that best advice would probably be to, number one thing, which I kind of mentioned earlier, is to take care of yourself. It's foundation to everything. So ensure that you're checking in on your mental and emotional health and understand when your business is, causing too much stress or that you need to disconnect. And through that disconnection, just understand that that creates valuable space for us to come up with creative solutions, to look at the problems we may be facing from a different angle. So that is a huge piece. And then, of course, just to take that leap of faith and to jump into it. We don't really discover if something works or not without jumping in and trying something new. And so doing that and understanding that however it goes, whether it succeeds or fails, is exactly as it's supposed to. And so through that, I think we can kind of just see what happens and do it in a way that's not so stressful and doesn't have as much pressure. And I think that also really leaning into our why and linking purpose to our work as well. At least for me, this has helped me continue through even when there are challenges, having a deeper connection to it beyond just, oh, I want to reach this number, but really understanding what that really represents, when it comes to the human beings impacted or whoever is purchasing my products or experiencing me, what value I want to bring, but also the purpose that fulfills within me. So leaning into that, asking yourself why, and I think through the why, we can really find a lot of fuel to keep going.
Haley, yes, incredible. But Abubakar, you are our last one. What advice would you give to any starting entrepreneurs?
Yeah, sure. So I actually have 5 short but very important advice that I would give to emerging entrepreneurs. Number one, always be patient. Like, you know what I mean? Despite whatever happens, always be patient. Going back on Haley's point, also understand your why. It has to be a purpose for you to be doing this, because like successful businesses are those that solve problems. So, understand your why and your purpose. Number 3, explore your creative inner self. Don't be like me in the beginning when I said, well, I'm just not creative. I can't do that. Actually sit down and take some time and talk to yourself and see what you are capable of doing. Also, always remain focused on your vision. Don't get too distracted. Always be focused on the long-term goal. Additionally, network with all, but do not take advice from all. I feel like this one is very, very important. Like, definitely try to build up your network, but don't take each and everyone's advice. Choose those that pertain to you and will help elevate you. And last but not least, never act like you can't grow or you don't need support.
Everything that he said is so accurate. What I was going to say for my advice is that a business is solving a problem. That's what I love to say. That's what my mom taught me as an entrepreneur. She's an entrepreneur. So that's what she taught me. You were just creating something to help solve a problem that solves a problem that really relates to you. So you have that level of thing. But my advice now is word of mouth is really one of the best ways to get your company around. Go out to events and go put yourself on lists to email people. Go put yourself on email lists just to talk to people who you think you would have a great relationship with, and that will get you to the places that you want to go to. But that was our last question, everybody. So we're going to close it off.
Guys, on behalf of the program committee, this was outstanding. You've done an excellent job. I'm sure all the advice is well taken. I'm sure everybody learned so much from you. And I appreciate your time, especially being entrepreneurs. This hour, you could have made some money, but you chose to share advice. And I think that was really commendable. So thank you guys again. I appreciate you. It's been amazing. Please have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And next week, enjoy the holidays with your family.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Hello. Excuse me, friend Thomas.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good.
Hey,
That was great. That was great.
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to say, like, thank you for being our host. You know, like, the session went really, really well.